should be played at high volume, preferably in a residential.
Yeah, welcome back, Cotter, and welcome back to Fourth and Frames, where tonight we're breaking down our plays and fades for week 2. And if you're joining us on live on YouTube, we'll be answering your questions as well. And if you're watching us on YouTube and want to support our content, the best thing you can do is like and then subscribe to the Fantasy and Frames YouTube channel anytime a new podcast or short form drops from us. And then you can also search for all of our podcasts here on the network, Fantasy and Frames, by name on your preferred podcast platform. And for us, make sure to subscribe to the Fourth and Frames Podcast Network. And don't forget to lock in with the gang at fantasyandframes.com for the latest weekly rankings for IDP and Redraft, as well as our staff Dynasty rankings and all of the latest articles that are going on. Nate Markham.
What up?
Kyle Ziegler. Drew Scott. Let's go around the frames. How the heck are you tonight, my man Nate?
I am good. It's, nice to get our feet wet with the first week. It's overreaction Wednesday, of course, and it was his overreaction Tuesday, and it'll be overreaction Thursday, Friday for basically the next 16 weeks, I'm sure.
Overreaction season is what it sounds like. Drew Scott, once again, on the road, again, going places that I'm sure you've been. You thought love was talking ball with all your friends, but here you are on Fourth and Frames again. How the heck are you?
I'm doing great now that I'm here, man. I get to I'm tilting my face off a little bit over the whole Kenneth Walker week 1 usage. I'm terrified right now because I'm quite invested in Kenneth Walker, but I get to make a trip to Nashville this weekend to watch the Rams beat Kyle's Titans in Nashville for Cam Ward's home opener. So, life ain't all bad.
And before we get to Kyle, let's say what's up to Aiden, who has decided that my new nickname is Unk because God bless this Gen Alpha where all they want to do is make their tac-tacs and have stupid slang. But Kyle, you're more along my speed. So first off, do me 2 favors. Number 1, tell me how you are tonight. And number 2, tell Aiden that he's stupid, please.
Aiden, I can't do that, Rhett. That's my boy. I gotta be good to Aiden. But it is so good to be back with you guys. Oh man, it's been a rough couple of weeks with that back. Man, herniated disc in the back, guys. It is no joke. It put me on the floor. But man, it's so good to be back. Matthew Stafford makes me feel like less of a man because he's out there throwing bombs, dealing with the same issue that I am. And I can't come on here and talk shop with my boys. So he's a little bit of an inspiration. I'm back. I got my little couch thing here like Phil Jackson sitting up high. I feel good. Let's roll.
Activated him from the IR just for tonight, just for week 2. And before we get into tonight's smash and pass, boys, let's react to week 1 and also sprinkle some news and notes in there. Guys, Brock Purdy went out with an injury last week, straight out of the mouth of Kyle Shanahan himself. He says he is a long shot to play this Sunday against the New Orleans Saints, and he could miss multiple weeks. So, Kyle, I'm going to go ahead and start with you. Do you think we can trust any of the offensive playmakers on the 49ers with McCorkle Jones starting at quarterback?
I feel like he's actually serviceable. Unless I have better options, I'm going to roll with Ricky Pearsall. I think even with Mac Jones, he can produce wide receiver 2 numbers. And let me go around the frames and ask y'all this. If I told you that Mac Jones is what Drake May was last year, would you believe me?
No. I'm assuming it's true since you're saying it, but I would not believe you.
Okay. Yeah, and the 10 games that Trevor Lawrence missed with his shoulder injury, Mac Jones averaged 26 pass attempts, 6.7 yards per attempt, and his quarterback rating was 80 and finished on a per-game basis of 167 yards passing per game. I know, that's not very exciting, right? But let me read you Drake May's numbers from last year. He averaged the exact same passing attempts, 26, with a 6.7 yards per attempt, and his quarterback rating was 88. May finished last year with 175 yards passing per game. So I think you're getting a last-year rookie Drake May in Mac Jones. So if you started Drake May last year, you got to start Mac Jones this year if you have to.
Yeah.
It's an interesting.
That's fair. It's fair. If George Kittle wasn't hurt, I might be a little bit more skeptical about still starting Ricky Pearsall, but the fact that there's also other injuries in the pass catching room as well, I think you still have to roll with them. I think he's still at worst, he's still a flex option for you. And then, we're not fading Christian McCaffrey. I don't give a shit if I'm out there playing quarterback. Christian McCaffrey is lined up. So that changes nothing for me. But if the entire receiver room and tight end room was healthy, I might have a little bit more pause. But the fact that Jennings has been banged up and George Kittle is on IR, why not roll him out there?
If you have to. Yeah.
Right. And yeah, you bring up the perfect segue because George Kittle was placed on IR. Will miss at least the next 4 games. As Aiden says, in order to be on the IR, you got to be out 4 weeks before we can activate it. He says Kyle's breaking the rules. You know what, Kyle? You're here breaking the rules with us, so we're fine with it. Well, we've seen waivers run already in most leagues. But, Nate, I'm going to start with you, and let's go around the frames. Who would be your favorite tight end replacement between the 2 week 1 breakouts? Or if you want to go in another direction, you're more than able to. But would you prefer Juwan Johnson or Harold Fannin?
I think what we saw in week 1 is that the involvement was centered around, Harold Fannin. And that was helpful in that they threw the ball 46 times. Same as with Spencer Rattler and Juwan Johnson, who threw the ball 46 times. So the passing volume was there for both. Who do I think is more likely as a solid floor? I was leaning towards Juwan Johnson, but, watching a little bit more of Fannin, I believe that he has the skill set to take that breakout gap, because really you need 4 weeks until Kittle's back, and you hope that he's healthy when he does. But I look at the pecking order, and it's like I still see it being Judy. I say Cedric Tillman. We'll get to that later. And him and Njoku, I could see flip-flopping. So I'm going to go lean towards Juwan Johnson myself, just because I feel like there's a cleaner path for immediate return. Harold Fannin would be the long-term play for me.
Look, here's the thing about Harold Fannin. I'm going to let you guys chime in on it too. But my man, in his NFL debut with David Njoku, who has been a solid NFL tight end for years now, Josh Norris on Twitter pointed out Fannin's usage last week. He played 55 snaps. He played 3 as a lead blocker at fullback. He played 29 inline snaps. He played 16 slot snaps, and he played 6 snaps out wide. Not only is he being used, but Cleveland has plans for him to move him around and try to find mismatches for him. So the usage tells me, and Drew, you could agree or disagree, and I'm going to ask you if you prefer Johnson or Fannin in a little bit. But the usage for me tells me that I don't think Fannin is going anywhere. I think there is a long-term plan for him here in week 2 and throughout the season.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. Fannin would be the guy that I would prefer between the two. I mean, he's basically just like the Browns slot receiver. Njoku didn't really even, at least his snaps didn't really suffer for having Fannin out there. And so if you're telling me I can start the Browns slot receiver at the tight end spot and get peppered with targets from Joe Flacco, and with the usage he got, with the target volume he got right off the bat in week 1 of his rookie year, I mean, that puts him in some pretty wild company whenever you look at other rookies that were that productive right out of the gate. And so it would be one thing if this came out of nowhere, but I mean, he was one of the most productive college tight ends of all time.
Mm-hmm.
He just tested poorly, so he fell down some draft boards, but the talent is clearly there. And I think we need to trust that. And so Juwan Johnson, I do think that he's still going to see considerably good volume, but Chris Olave got banged up in week 1. Does he see those targets if Olave's healthy the whole game? It's hard to know. But I just whenever you've got 2 options, and option 1 is a guy that's been in the league for several years and is a good player, but has shown us what he is. He's fine. And then the other option is a rookie who immediately burst onto the scene in week 1. That's the guy that I want. I want the guy with some potential untapped upside, and he has the college production profile to back it up. So if I'm picking between the two, I think either is a serviceable option. Honestly, I think either one's fine, but I'm picking Fannin between the two.
Kyle, let's play devil's advocate with you real quick for Juwan Johnson. Foster Moreau's out. Taysom Hill's out. Juwan Johnson plays 98.6% of snaps last week for the Saints.
Mm-hmm.
We can't sneeze at that.
Yeah, and 11 targets at that. And I believe that Spencer Rattler will continue to target him. He's a big body tight end. He's going to look for him. That's what first-year quarterbacks typically do. They target their tight end. He's got him. Big target there. And, I just don't know if I could trust Harold Fannin just yet. I know I agree with Drew. He basically plays slot wide receiver. But at the end of the day, he's still a rookie tight end. Great first week, but I don't know if I could trust that going into another week for him to do that again. I trust Juwan Johnson, who's been in the league a lot longer, shown that, he could probably do it a little bit more than him right now. So it just comes down to trust. I trust Juwan Johnson more in this situation, but I got to give it to him. Harold Fannon's got a high ceiling. It could be all or nothing with Harold Fannin.
Well, and it does go back a little bit to last year too. Week 17 and 18, Rattler developed that rapport with Juwan Johnson, ending the season, and I don't think it's just a awkward correlation to this year as far as coming into the season where he's heavily targeted, but there's a little bit of familiarity, more so than there obviously is with Fannin and Flacco. Not to say that they can't develop that, but week 17, 18, 17 combined targets, 12 catches, 146 total yards for Juwan Johnson with Spencer Rattler. But again, now I'm just trying to pick and choose, scenarios. I don't think they're that far separate from one another. I think that they're going to be, I don't think it's one's an absolute money play and the other's a bust that can't at least get you your serviceable number, especially if you lose Kittle, because that sucks. That's the worst. That's another thing we got to figure out too is, now you're talking about replacing not just tight end production, but also a fourth round tight end production, third, fourth round, where, you're looking maybe for upside, which does benefit Fannin. There's no doubt about that. Like if you're looking for the high output, maybe that's the case, but I'm still always trying to replace with just something at this point. I hate to play that way because that's like playing for fourth or fifth, but sometimes safety is a nice little way to go.
Yeah. And before we get to this next, go ahead.
I was just going to throw a couple things up here real quick. So Juwan Jennings out this week. He didn't practice today, so it's always tough to know middle of the week what's going to happen, but certainly not trending in the right direction with him not practicing yet. As far as Juwan Jennings goes. And then we were just talking about Pearsall. So we had a Pearsall trade question come in. Keith has Pearsall on his flex Dynasty 10 team, start 2 running backs, 3 receivers, 2 flex, and a super flex. Should he trade Ricky Pearsall?
In a Dynasty format, I would say no. I would hold fine.
Yeah, I agree. Unless you get like some crazy, anybody could be tradable, but if anything, your fellow dynasty managers are probably going to try to use the Brock Purdy injury to lowball you, if anything. And so it all depends on what you can get. But I don't think he's a must trade. I think he's still going to see decent volume.
And it's important to not panic yet on Brock Purdy. I think it's only a short-term absence. He might miss a week, maybe 2. He'll be back, and Kittle's going to be gone for 4 games. We know that. So. Right. That's going to leave Pearsall as like the main guy there in San Francisco for at least the next 4 games.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then we got a start-sit question for this week. Flex James Conner, Mike Evans, or Ibuka, and then start Mark Andrews or Tucker Kraft. Tampa's got Houston this week, so I'm assuming Mike Evans is probably going to see a decent amount of Derek Stingley, so I almost would prefer Ibuka over Mike Evans, but I probably want James Conner over both of them with playing against Carolina, that run defense. I think Trey Benson was a little bit more involved than James Conner owners would probably have liked last week, but even with that involvement, I still think against Carolina, James Conner is probably – I would say go James Conner for safety. If you are projected to lose, you need a little bit more upside, then maybe you go at Ibuka, but I would go James Conner personally. And then I'm going to be talking about Mark Andrews as a pass a little bit later on. So spoiler alert, but I've got Tucker Kraft over Mark Andrews this week.
And I wouldn't panic on James Conner yet either. He still had 63.9% of the run snaps there. Yeah. Trey Benson's coming. He's definitely emerging, no doubt, but it's still early. And I think right now it's Connor's backfield until Benson maybe second half of the season does take over. But right now, I think it's still James Conner.
Yeah.
God, you guys are so good at this. You guys make me look good always, but especially this week as we get to this regular season. But let's keep going, guys, because just as we all predicted last week, top 6 running backs last week, Javonte Williams and Travis Etienne. So, just like we called it, just like everybody had it in week 1 rankings.
Sure.
Those guys show up and they show out. So, Drew, I'm going to start with you. And I think this is I have a strong opinion about one of these guys. I actually have strong opinions about both of these guys. But do you think either of these guys have staying power rest of season?
I know Aiden's answer because one of Aiden's my guys was Javonte. And so, shout out to Aiden for that call.
Take that victory lap, Aiden.
Yeah, take it while you can, brother, because I don't think it's going to last long. I got to tell you. I'm going to talk about Travis Etienne a little bit more later. I do think he has some staying power. Javonte, I'm not so sure about. The Fantasy Points Data official Twitter page basically put it into the easiest way to summarize it up. The Cowboys ran the ball on 5 of 6 plays inside the red zone, which comes out to 83%. That's about a 40% increase, more than 40% increase from last year. And the league leader was only at 62.4%. So they're not going to be running the ball in that often inside the red zone. And on top of that, Williams only averaged 3.6 yards per carry. He forced 0 missed tackles on 15 rushing attempts. And the Eagles' best run defender decided to spit on Dak Prescott right at the beginning of the game and get thrown out. And so, look, Javonte, the usage was a plus for Javonte. He got more work than I expected him to get, but there was also some luck mixed in there as well, and that's just something that I don't think you can bank on a week-to-week basis. And Jaden Blue, who has been inactive to start the year, I do think eventually he will factor into this backfield. So I think you can ride out Javonte for the beginning of the season, but if there's somebody in your league that believes in Javonte the way Aiden believes in Javonte, you should go sell. You should go sell Javonte to that person.
Yeah, it was actually rather. Sorry, Rhett, you were saying.
I was just going to say really quickly, get you a spouse who loves you the way Aiden loves Javonte Williams.
Right, exactly. But what was crazy is that as soon as the Jalen Carter spitting incident, it was Dallas. I'll give them credit for one thing. They realized, hey, their game plan, I guarantee coming into that game, did not revolve around running up the gut as many times as they did, knowing full well they're going to run into Jalen Carter and company. Their game script on the fly changeup that they decided to do, I'll give them credit for that. I think that's a Schottenheimer type, headsy play. But it's like if your grandma just lets you have the cookie jar open and you go in and you eat 35 cookies, you're going to get sick. And that's what is going to happen. Is they eventually got sick, and Javonte looks like the beneficiary of that. But it's also a tale of Philadelphia's defense deciding that, you know what, we know we lost Carter. We're not even going to make any changes. We're going to stay back. We're going to make sure that Dak doesn't beat us, which they did. And they essentially would – I don't think other defenses are going to have to go into that same type of weekly game plan. Now, maybe that's a little – more in depth, and maybe I'm overanalyzing or assuming. That's exactly what I'm doing, is making assumptions, because I haven't spoken to anybody that can tell me 100% that I am correct on that. But nobody, I don't think, expected that type of scenario or game script to play out. And I don't know if they, after realizing that they even had the success they did on the ground, then they still lose, that they should stick to that script. I think it's going to be this is not a buy low, because I don't know how low you can buy Pickens and CD potentially and Dak, but 100% I'm jumping off this game and trying to get any piece of them that I can if someone's really panicking after 1 week. Overreaction, we know.
Agreed.
Look, best case scenario for Javonte Williams going forward is he's 2022 Jamal Williams. That's the peak. And Jamal Williams, with 17 rushing touchdowns, finishes running back 18. So would that be a great season? Would you be getting above ADP with Javonte Williams at that point? Absolutely. But that's also a very specific, very outlier sort of play at a best case scenario that you would be relying on in Javonte Williams. Long story short, I'm with a lot of people. I think it's a sell high situation. I think you see it for a few more weeks. I think you see what Jaden Blue becomes in that offense, and then you make a decision from there.
Yeah, and I agree. I agree with Moggs here. I think Dobbins is another one that's a sell high as well. Completely agree.
So moving on to our theme of, well, that was interesting. Kyle, you seem like exactly the type of guy that would have had Quentin Johnson and Keon Coleman as top 5 receivers after week 1.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Was that you?
Yeah.
Lock it in, baby. So let's go around the frames because we got to get to these smash and pass plays. Nate, let's start with you. Can you trust either of these guys rest of season?
I trust Coleman more than I trust Quentin Johnson, just from the route running percentage change that we've seen this year, and hopefully that it sticks.
Yep, completely agree.
Yeah.
I think Trey he didn't affect the game yet, but I do think eventually Trey Harris will play a bigger role in this offense down the stretch of the year, and that will affect Quentin Johnston more than it will anybody else.
And one of Quentin Johnston's touchdowns was it was almost like an intentional pick where he got completely wide open as a result. Not saying he couldn't have gotten open on his own, but I think that does inflate just some of the numbers, just a little bit watching the game a little deeper than the box score.
And guys, we've seen this time and time again. This is what Quentin Johnston is. He'll have a huge week one week, come out and have 3 catches for 25 yards, no scores in that game. He'll be a smash play, and then he'll be a pass play. You know, that's just who Quentin Johnston is. At least with Keon Coleman, we don't know what he is yet. You know, I kind of like the ceiling there because we don't know. He could be Kelvin Benjamin or he could be prime time Stephon Diggs. We don't know yet. So kind of in a weird, twisted way, I'm kind of intrigued by Keon Coleman.
So what you're trying to tell me, Kyle, and Drew, you can finish the statement for me. Quentin Johnson is one of these guys that might be, what's the golden phrase around here?
Better in best ball.
Better in best ball, baby.
AKA not good.
That's fact.
All right, so let's get into this smash and pass. But before we do that, let's give a shout out to our good friends at Trophy Smack, where the promo code Fantasy and Frames gets you 10% off of anything they might have in stock. That could be a championship belt. That could be a sweet ring. That could be a big trophy. You name it, they've got it. Just order it. Just go to trophysmack.com, put in that promo code Fantasy and Frames 10. Save yourself some money. Get your leaks and dope swag, and just get your championship bragging rights game up over at trophysmack.com. So, boys, the time has arrived. We are here talking about our week 2 smash and pass plays. And when we talk about a smash play and a pass play, we're going with the exact same things we talked about last year. A smash play is a player that is outside the top 12 wide receivers, the top 15 running backs, the top 20 wide receivers, or the top 10 tight ends in the Fantasy Pros Week 2 expert consensus rankings. And a pass player is someone who is inside that top 15 quarterbacks, top 20 running backs, top 35 wide receivers, or the top 12 tight ends in the Fantasy Pros Week 2 ECR. So, Nate, I'm going to go ahead and throw it up to you to start off. Some interesting usage in the Minnesota backfield last week. Saw a tweet earlier today where your smash play actually got more goal line touches than the person who is supposedly the starter there in Minnesota. So go ahead and preach the gospel to us on why Jordan Mason at running back 32 in the Fantasy Pros ECR for Week 2 is a smash play against the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, we're hoping, Kevin O'Connell saw the same thing on the field that everybody else saw. Was Jordan Mason looked much more explosive between the two. He was more effective on the ground. He had a higher snap share. The carries were outweighed 15-8. The routes run, of course, we know that it's not going to be entirely a game that Aaron Jones is going to be completely excluded from. There's going to be some involvement, but I really just think this closer to, I think it's going to lean more Jordan Mason's way. And with the ball in his hands on a per touch basis, I'm much more comfortable watching the explosiveness that he has the ability to do. And I don't care how last week shaked out, as far as point scoring against a particular defense, et cetera. But I'm not too terribly worried that Minnesota, we saw this second half, as JJ McCarthy or really the fourth quarter took control of that game. And I think that he's do the same thing against an Atlanta defense that, while not giving up a ton of yards on the ground last week, Atlanta's defense, if Keith was here, he would back this up completely. Just doesn't scream run stopper. Like when they used to have Nate Landman and company at linebacker, they were good run stoppers. That was pretty much about it. And now it's went the opposite direction. I could very easily see Minnesota utilizing more on the ground. And if that's the case, Jordan Mason, I think, is an explosive play away from delivering easy flex value. And you can slot him into that RB2, especially as the season goes on, barring injury. That's it.
Yeah, it's a good call. I agree with you there. And Adam A123. Thanks for joining us, Adam. We appreciate you. Kyle, he wants to know if you're going to flex JMO or DJ Moore.
JMO or DJ Moore? DJ Moore is healthy. I saw him get banged up, but yeah, if he plays, I'm gonna go DJ Moore.
Well,
Drew, I think you have an answer for that, so we can talk about that later.
Yeah, I'm not so high on DJ Moore this week. JMO does make me a little bit nervous too, to be honest with you. I think they're playing against each other this week, and I think that it could end up being a low scoring game. Man, it's just.
So wouldn't you take if it's close, you take the wide receiver 1 versus the 2, wouldn't you?
Is DJ Moore the wide receiver 1?
Well,
I mean, he was third on the Bears in targets last week.
yeah, I know Roma Dunze got him beat there in week 1, but it's just week 1. Did you see DJ? He's taking running back snaps.
Even what's his name, Zacchaeus out targeted DJ Moore last week. So I don't know.
Andy Barron's on Sunday morning.
What did Jameson Williams do?
Jameson,
he didn't do much. That's why it's such a hard question. It's a tough one. It's really close. I can see why you would be struggling with this. I will say this for DJ Moore. He does still have a lot of big play upside, as does JMO. They feel like very, very similar players. His yards per target and yards per reception were both through the week, even though were both through the roof, even though the targets weren't there last week. I think I would go DJ Moore, but it's close. I could see why this would be a tough one.
Yeah, I love JMO, but I probably lean. Honestly, the only reason I was gonna not say DJ Moore is because I know that you're not as high on him this week, and I want us to be cohesive as a team and go in this battle. No, but it's also because I edge out DJ Moore just a little bit over Jameson Williams, and it's not too far removed, but I feel like the floor is a little bit safer for Moore by a bit.
It's Jordan Mason or Dylan Sampson full PPR. Let's start with you,
Nate.
I mean, it's tougher than by rationale. I could have made Dylan Sampson my smash from not going to take. If I take him over Jordan Mason, that would be foolish of me not to do that. I feel safer, more comfortable with Jordan Mason. I do think that the full PPR does it, but it's the goal line work that Jordan Mason really, I feel more comfortable with him over Aaron Jones, believe it or not. And I know Dylan Sampson's not going to touch anything at the goal line. Hell, they brought in what was his name?
Rocket Sanders.
Yeah.
He punched one in, didn't he?
Yeah.
Punched one in. Yep.
So that's when Sampson's not going to be involved inside the 5 or 10. So
Rocket Sanders had just joined the team like a week before the game and was getting the goal line touches. So I think it's a safe bet to make.
And I don't know if he's going to have he had 8 catches, right? Dylan Sampson. I don't know if he does that again.
I don't see that myself. And that's also, again, a Baltimore defense that is going more capable than the Cincinnati linebackers of slowing him down in terms of preventing the yards after the catch and just the targets exclusively. But I've been wrong before, plenty of times. So I think this is one that I'm intrigued though with you guys is Jacoby Myers, Javonte Williams, or David Montgomery. It's really, I guess, Jacoby Myers or David Montgomery for you guys.
So I'm going to go ahead and take this. If I would have taken an honorable mention, my guy, or maybe I got scared last week, I've been all in on Jacoby Myers all off season, so I don't know why I didn't take him as a my guy last week. Because he proved me right again. I mean, this is a guy that just seems to come out year after year. He's not the flashiest player, but he ends up every year being a top 30 receiver because he ends up with 118 targets. He makes 85 catches. He gets a little over 1,000 yards, and he scores 3 or 4 touchdowns. Like, it's not the funnest thing. Like, he's not a guy you want to get excited about playing every week. But, I mean, he comes out last week and does, 8 catches for 95 yards or something like that in a PPR format. I mean, it's hard to ignore a guy who's going to come out and be that steady. And we always talk about guys wanting them to be a top 2 target in an offense. I don't know if you guys have noticed this about Las Vegas last week. It was pretty much a 2-target offense between Bowers and Myers. So, it's hard to ignore Jacoby Myers.
Yeah, matchup against the Chargers is good too. Ironically enough, I just talked about how much I don't like Javonte rest of season, but I do like him more than David Montgomery for week 2. So for me, it would be between Jacoby Myers and Javonte Williams, and I think I lean Jacoby as well between those two. All right, couple one. Well, assuming this is a 1 quarterback, 1 tight end league. You got Smitty has a couple onesie position questions for us. We'll rapid fire these real quick. Jonnu or Juwan Johnson?
Juwan for me.
Okay, clean sweep. Daniel Jones or JJ McCarthy?
JJ.
Yeah,
it's
JJ.
So crazy that this is a question.
This is the most Rhett Manuel question that has ever existed on this show, by the way. To make me choose between Daniel Jones and JJ McCarthy, 2 very as of right now, people would consider them to be mid to below average fantasy football quarterbacks, and yet here I am, all in, juiced up about this question. But I'm a JJ guy, so I'm gonna say JJ just at default.
Yeah, I agree. Jones looked good, but
he's got Denver this week.
Playing Miami and playing Denver is not the same thing. So yeah, I would lean JJ as well. Okay, now we got Adam looking for some possible trade advice. So his lineup is Burrow, Chase Brown, Bucky Irving, Jamar Chase, Emeka Ibuka, and DJ Moore, and Tyler Warren in the Rams D. Tracy, Sharps, Rice on the bench. Good Lord. You got a solid team. You might have lost last week, but I don't see too many more losses in your future.
Yeah, don't panic. Keep this team. Don't make any moves. It's just week 1. It'll work itself out. Keep this squad.
Yeah, for anybody that actually might not have Joe Burrow, if there's a chance that you can go out and actually try to get him from the team that had him, if they're going to panic. He does this every year. The first couple of weeks of the season is Joe Burrow down weeks, and then he blows up for the final 13 or so. And maybe not every year, but you get the idea. I'm 100% trying to – you're never going to get Joe Burrow from somebody. But you never know. Maybe there's a chance. Let us know if you ever do. But I think the team's fine.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and then
he asked the question.
Too many Bengals.
I don't think so.
It's a fair concern, but I don't think so. I mean, you've got the quarterback, the wide receiver 1, the running back 1. I think that's perfectly fine. I don't want to trade any of those guys away, even with the roster that you have. I wouldn't be looking to trade any of those guys. Always be open to it. If somebody comes with just a Godfather offer for Burrow or for Chase Brown, it's always worth listening. But no, I think you're fine, man. The Bengals had a very typical week 1 Bengals week. It's not going to be very often you're going to see the offense look that bad. So there are much better days ahead. And you are exactly right. If Worthy isn't healthy, by the time Rice comes back, Rice is going to be an elite option. And honestly, even if Worthy is healthy whenever he comes back, I still think Rice is going to step right back into his role. So, but yeah, so that's kind of – so it sounds like we are in agreement that your roster's in a good spot. Week 1 was just disappointing. Everybody go follow Rob Thomas. He wants to know another Jordan Mason one. Jordan Mason or Khalil Shakir in the flex.
I'll go Mason.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Nate will too.
I will take it. Yes. Smash that pick or whatever they say.
All right, full point PPR. We've got what is this? 5 options. We need to pick 3 of them.
Okay, pick 3.
Jeez.
Good options to pick from. Brian Thomas
Yeah.
Jr., Lad McConkey, Cortland Sutton, Ricky Pearsall, or Tetaroa McMillan.
BTJ, Lad, and Tet for me.
I agree.
BTJ, Lad. It's tough between Sutton and McMillan.
Yeah. Trying to think of any singular match.
Will Johnson looks
really
good last week, and that's who McMillan is likely going to be lined up against. And
let's be honest, Bryce
Sutton's got Indy. Bo Nix didn't look good either. Shit.
Nope. And I don't know if Indy is that far apart from the Denver Broncos. You know, what I'm trying to say is their defense is a little bit underrated, in my opinion.
I mean, there's definitely a gap between them and Denver, but they are an underrated defense.
Miami makes them look a little bit better too.
Yeah, that's where I was going.
Always helpful, but I know what you're saying.
Thanks, Nate. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, no, it's easy to. It's easy to see how good they did. They played really, really good though. Regardless, I never want to just poo-poo on the defense when the opposing team doesn't play great, but they still deserve their credit. And I think I'm going to lean Cortland Sutton myself. Just I want to see another week with Bryce Young, even though with as bad as Bryce played, McMillan still was fine. But I guess if I'm looking for the ceiling play, I think Sutton, or maybe even this more solid floor and just as high ceiling, I'll stick with Sutton.
I'll talk you into Tet later.
That's okay.
Yeah,
Talk us into Tet now. Because he is your smash play for the week. And so go ahead. He is that ECR wide receiver 22. Let's do that and let's get back to the people after that. But tell us why Tet. We're just coming off of this start 3 question. Let's get it, baby.
That's thank God, Kyle. Yeah. He's taking on the Arizona Cardinals. It's a volume play for me with Tet McMillan. Last week, Tet led the Panthers in targets, catches, and yards despite the offense struggling. He and Hubbard was literally the only offense for the Carolina Panthers. And no, it wasn't the greatest stat line at all. What was it last week? 5 catches, 68 yards, no scores. But you know what I was encouraged by? His 9 targets in the game. What's that saying? Someone has to catch the ball in Carolina. Well, Tet's the only one to catch the ball in Carolina. In a game against Arizona, Arizona should dominate that football game by 2 scores or more. I think he could easily see 10 plus targets in the game. He had 9 last week. It's a solid volume play for me with Tet McMillan, who's got a good chance to maybe find the end zone this week. So yeah, wheels up for Tet McMillan, in my opinion.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, so got a couple more. Got offered Dak and Tyreek for Purdy, Ayuk, and Sutton, 12-team PPR. And we'll the keeper stuff we'll leave that for closer to the end of the year. A lot can change between now and January. So for me, Dak and Purdy is almost like a wash for me personally.
Yeah.
Now Purdy's going to miss a few weeks, so you'll have Dak, but in a 1 quarterback league, I'm not so much worried of like that. Don't get me wrong; it would be nice to have Dak while Purdy's out, but I'm not going to let that influence me in trade decisions whenever I can just go find replaceable quarterback value on the waiver wire for the couple weeks I don't have Purdy. So I'm not really looking at the quarterbacks too much in this trade personally. And so for me, this trade becomes Tyreek for Ayuk and Sutton. And I don't even know if I want Tyreek for Sutton by himself straight up at this point. He hasn't looked good on the field. He can't stop beating women off the field. Sorry, but I think I would just I think I would keep the Purdy, Ayuk, and Sutton side personally.
And for me, I agree because when I look at a deal like this where there are multiple players involved, I'm looking for the player that I think has the best. I'm looking for the best player in the deal. And right now, in terms of safest floors rest of the season, I think Cortland Sutton is the guy that has the safest floor among these players that are offered in the deal. I get that Tyreek Hill at one point was one of those fantasy dudes, but we're not sure if Mike McDaniel is going to have a job by the end of the season, much less whether we don't know if Tua is a viable fantasy quarterback anymore. There's just a lot of questions in Miami right now that make me want to shower in that situation.
Yeah, and you're not going to see Ayuk until October. You know what, Nick? I think your best bet is to hit that waiver wire if you're worried about, Purdy and the quarterback situation. Maybe Michael Penix Jr. is out there. Go get him. I think he's got a great matchup this week and going forward. I really like Michael Penix Jr.
Yeah, I personally, as you guys probably know, I'm extremely high on Dak despite week 1, and I think he's the biggest upgrade considerably for me over Purdy. But I don't want any piece of Tyreek. I don't care if he goes to a different team. There's rumors of him being traded. No team's going to be able to trade for what he's going to cost him, etc. And Sutton is just safe enough that I think the replacement level, as we pointed out, isn't that far off from what you can get for the Purdy bye or injury weeks. So I'm not either, even though I do love Dak. Especially long term.
I agree with that too, though. All right, quick tight end start sit question. Start Harold Payne at Baltimore, Juwan Johnson versus San Francisco. I know we've kind of already talked about both of these guys, how we feel about them at length, but just quickly round the frames. Rhett, we'll start at you at the top and work our way around. Fannin or Juwan Johnson this week at PPR?
This week, Juwan, rest of season Fannin.
I agree with that statement.
I agree as well.
Okay, and then we'll be talking about Mahomes here in a little bit, Dan. So just stay tuned. Stay tuned for that one. We'll get into Mahomes here shortly. And okay, I think that's it.
I think we're good. I think we're caught up.
Little prayers up for the Titans fan.
Thank you. We're gonna need it.
Thank you, Fed quarterback Nick Mullins, for joining us tonight. But Drew, let's get into your first Smash player because we talked about him a little bit earlier in the news and notes section. We talked about staying power. Dude, Travis Etienne and that Liam Cohen offense, he didn't just look good. He looked good, like to the point where there is considerable thought in my mind that this is a guy who could end up as an RB1 by the end of the season. So, like, you have him as a smash this week. He's the RB17 in the Fantasy Pros ECR. Talk us through your logic on it, man.
Yeah, and look, I mean, is Travis Etienne going to average almost 9 yards per carry every week? Probably not. But after the Jags traded away Tank Bigsby to Philadelphia this past week, his role as the lead back in this offense looks even more safe than it did after his impressive week 1 performance. And it's not just the yards per carry that were impressive. He had 3 forced missed tackles, and he averaged over 5 yards after contact per attempt as well. So it's not like he was just taking what the offensive line gave him and then falling down. He was forcing missed tackles. He was getting yards after contact. And the wild thing is he still has some untapped upside if he's going to keep this workhorse role because the Jags backfield didn't have a single carry inside the 5-yard line last week. So we haven't even gotten to touch on the possible touchdown upside that can come from the role of being the workhorse in a Liam Cohen offense. So if that changes, Etienne gets some looks in the red zone. We talked about the work that he's already been getting. I think he could be in for another big week. And, we saw Dylan Sampson finish as a borderline top 15 running back this past week against Cincinnati. Now, the only problem I have with making that comparison is most of Dylan Sampson's work came in the receiving game, and Travis Etienne didn't really do much in the receiving game this past week. Most of his came on the ground, and LaQuint Allen actually handled a decent amount of the pass game work. But I'm trusting the volume. I'm trusting the fact that I think this is a beatable defense, and I don't have Etienne a ton higher than the ECR does. They're running back 17. I've only got him a few spots above that. But to your point, Rhett, I think he's one of these guys that we're going to end up if he keeps this role, I think he's going to end up being one of those guys that's going to be a fringe RB1 on a weekly basis. And so I don't think ECR has quite caught up to that yet up to this point. And so maybe we see Bashaw Tootin have a bigger role as the year goes on. But this early into the season, I expect Travis Etienne to hold on to the role that he has. So for week 2 at least, he's a smash play for me.
Yeah, I think it's pretty telling that, Jacksonville Jaguars sent Tank Bigsby out to Philly because they have a lot of trust and faith in Travis Etienne. So I like that call there because sending out, Tank Bigsby looked really good in the preseason. Like they could have used him, but they have a lot of faith in Etienne. They sent him out to Philly to let Etienne run away with it.
Yep.
They have a lot of faith in him.
What do we make of the wide receiver struggle in week 1? Do you think they bounce back this week? I do. Scott, wide receiver is a much more volatile position than running back is. You'll even the high end guys, you will see ups and downs from them throughout the year. It's just the nature of the wide receiver position. I would not panic yet. I would not be shocked to see almost all of the guys that had bad week 1s bounce back in week 2, with the exception of maybe 1 or 2 of the guys. But it was a very weird week 1, but the wide receiver position in general, that's just kind of how it seems to operate.
Yeah, if you look at like unrealized air yards and you go to week 1, typically on a week-to-week basis, you'll see this stat, and there'll be 1 or 2 guys sprinkled in the top 10, and you'll go, okay, that makes sense for those guys. But when you look at this list, and of the top 7, it's CD, JSN, BTJ, Malik Neighbors, Jamar Chase, and then you sprinkle in, Aomanor and Tyquan Thornton, and those are the outliers. Maybe not. Maybe like I was tempted to put him as a smash play, as a like super deep DFS, but we're not trying to get into a DFS smash pass. But yeah, I agree. I think that we not to be too terribly concerned because we'll see it revert back to the norm.
Yeah. Should I try to trade Pickens for AJ Brown? What would be a fair trade? I can trade picks. Short answer is yes. You should trade Pickens for AJ Brown. It just all really depends on how much you have to add with Pickens to get there. Because you are kind of selling low on Pickens. Just box score wise, we're going to talk about Pickens too here shortly, so I won't get too much into that. But the box score doesn't look great for Pickens, but there's some underlying things that would lead me to believe at least that there are better days ahead. So if you're going to include Pickens in the trade, it might be worth waiting for a spike game from Pickens, because I do think it's coming. But yeah, if you can pull off a reasonable trade with Pickens for AJ Brown, absolutely.
Yep.
All right, I want to buy ETN, but I'm assuming this is Dynasty, but my first may be early. Will 2 seconds get it done? He will be a running back depth piece.
I'm immediately seeing how old he is. Anybody know how old Travis Etienne is?
He was in the same draft class as Najee. So what, like 27?
26. Yeah.
26. Yeah. Okay.
So I would not trade a first for ETN. If 2 seconds can get it done, I would gladly do that. But especially if you think your first round pick has a chance of being a high one, there's no way I'm trading a first for him. But if you can get it done with seconds, I would do that.
It's just conducive. That offense is conducive to allow him to sustain in both half point, full point scoring format going forward, even as progressing ages. I think we know that his involvement in the screen games that Liam Cohen likes to use, just there's so many different high value touches that he can provide that he's never going to lose complete value. That you're right. I think 2 seconds or, test the market, put it out there, try 1 second and a third and see where you go from there.
Yep. Go low.
Yeah, the only issue with ETN is this is a contract year for ETN too. So like long-term value, we have no idea where ETN plays after this season. So I think he has good value the rest of this year, but it's impossible to know what's to hold, for his future unless he gets a contract extension during the season. So that's another kind of unknown variable that's just playing out there.
Yeah. And for Kyle looking for feedback on a potential trade or how to get the AJ Brown deal done, talk to the AJ Brown owner. Ask the questions. I know it sounds so simple and pedantic, but that's the way to find out what the market is just ask what the rate is. I hate to say it like that because I think that's oversimplified. I think we're all looking to make that trade offer that we feel is less valuable than what it should, and that person hit accept because it makes us all feel good thinking we underpaid. But in reality, there you go. He says he's thinking. Well,
yeah, and the main, just kind of like general trade advice. Take a look at his roster and try to find something that will actually help him. Like, don't just look at it from a close-out view of that this is what I need to do to improve my roster. You know, you got to look at it from the other side and say, if I was on the other side of this deal, would I at least consider accepting this? Is this filling a hole that this roster would need? Like, you have to try to make it make sense for them to as much as you can. So just take a look at his roster, see what he's missing, see what he needs, and go from there. He just keeps saying that he's thinking. He's been taking all day to respond. I should have patience. Look, we finally got our first set of games. Week 1's behind us. Where now everybody's ready to will and deal and things like that. So I get it. And patience could very well pay off on this. But, you know, I also understand wanting to try to buy A.J. Brown right now because this is probably the lowest his value is going to be.
I don't know. It could be after this week because the Chiefs, if anything,
true,
perimeter receivers have had challenges. I know that the Chargers will say otherwise this past week, but really it was more of the slot work than anything else and then, like I said, the crossing route that the guy got mixed up on with QJ and some other scenarios. But I think that maybe you wait a week and just see how he performs and play the gamble game, flip a coin, because there's a good chance that he might have a less than productive week against Kansas City, and then maybe his value is even lower to the person who's had him after 2 bad weeks. That's the gamble, though.
Yeah, and then as far as Jahmyr Gibbs' value, says I have a possible early first and multiple 27 first. If your first is going to be an early first, I don't know if you're really, and this is just how I approach Dynasty, but I don't really know if you should be in the market to buy a running back, to be honest with you. If you were a contender and they were going to be some late first, I would consider it, but if you're not a contender in a dynasty league, running back is the easiest position to backfill once you get into that contending position. So if you're going to spend those first, I would go for an elite receiver rather than elite running back. But like if I'm a contending team in a dynasty league and I feel like I'm a running back away from being like the favorite to win, I have no problem trading multiple, like 2 first-round picks for Jahmyr Gibbs. But if I'm a rebuilding team, that's not something that I'm even going to be considering personally.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's get back to the smash or pass.
Yeah, let's get back to these smash plays. Nate, we talked a lot about Harold Fannin. We've talked about Dylan Sampson, but the Cleveland Browns threw the ball 46 times last week. Mm-hmm. And probably the unsung hero of that last week is the ECR wide receiver 46. Which kind of feels low because this guy's kind of delivered anytime he's been healthy and he's been on the field for the Cleveland Browns. And he almost works as a 1B target in that offense. So tell me why Cedric Tillman against the Baltimore Ravens is a smash play for you.
Yeah, and there's a lot of mouths to feed, which is a weird thing to say about Cleveland. But we know from the pass catching standpoint, it's shaping up to be that way. But what did we learn? Let's go back to last year. What did we learn about fantasy targets to pinpoint is that Baltimore is the ideal target if you're looking for a smash plays at the wide receiver position, where they finished, 3rd last year in overall points allowed to the position. This year, albeit it was an odd game, they've continued that same trend, which is allowing the 2nd most points in week 1. And if you look at what Cedric Tillman did, granted him and Jerry Jeudy both had 17.5. They had equal target percentage, but among 30 wide receivers in week 1 with at least 30 routes run, Cedric Tillman ranked 1st in overall separation score. So I'll take the receiver that in a matchup against what I have always seen as a struggling secondary, and a lot of that's based on the fact that Baltimore's a great offense and other teams have to pass as much. It can skew that stat a little bit. But, while the Browns did do a good job at stifling the Bengals offense, this road game in Baltimore against a Ravens team that we'll be looking to put points on the board, I see this leading to Flacco another 40-plus times. I wouldn't be shocked to see him throw the ball 45, 46 times again. And if they do that, there's a good case, even with a 17% again for Cedric Tillman, the chance that he can create separation and get that big play, it just screams, get him in at that last flex and just bank on that upside. As long as Cleveland can have a modicum of offense, which I do believe they can do.
Yeah, it's an interesting call because our man Jorge Edwards, we were having a discussion earlier today, and the boss man was just chiming in. We saw him right there. Last week, one of his guys was Cedric Tillman, and he called it on the pregame show, as he says, 13.7 points in half PPR formats last week, and he put up a tutty as well. So he said in a tweet to me, if he hadn't coughed up the ball at the end of the game, who knows what that Cedric Tillman stat line would have been like. And if he was in a PPR format, I mean, at half PPR, you have 13.7. How many receptions did Tillman end up with?
I don't remember, to be honest with you.
Okay, so if it was 6 instead of 3 points, you basically double the points up. So in a hypothetical 6 reception game, you're talking about a guy who's not going to 17 PPR points. So if that's in your flex spot on a weekly basis, you're feeling good about that. I'm just going to put that out there for sure.
As long as Flacco's at quarterback.
As long as Flacco's at quarterback, correct.
Turns into Dylan Gabriel or a Shador scenario, then maybe I might move. But
M says, thanks for the answer, guys. Jesus fucking Christ. M, fun fact, man, I actually had your question starred to cover it at our next break after we got through our set of Smash players, but now I'm glad we didn't answer your fucking question.
Wow.
Wow.
You got intense around here.
I didn't see it. I miss it. Oh, all those red little circles are the same. Son of a bitch.
It was up a little bit. I had to start for us, so after we got through our next set of Smash plays, we could have gotten to it, but that was not quick enough for M. So
Pickens Coleman. There you go. How's that? I'll give an answer.
You're a nice guy, Nate.
You're nicer than I am, Nate.
Yeah, I know. I'm a man of the people.
Look, you give me some crazy ass attitude for not answering your question as soon as you ask it on a free show. You want us to get to your question as soon as you ask it?
Throw a super chat in.
All right, $1 super chat, and I'll answer whatever question you got. But until then, keep your attitude in your fucking pocket, man. I don't want to hear it.
I've never heard you go off like this. This is great.
Me either. Life is true.
This is the hotel life, man.
Hotel Drew coming out at new levels, ladies and gentlemen.
Where were we, Rhett? You're much better at controlling this thing than I am.
Okay. Yeah, we've gone off the rails. Kyle, just go ahead and give us your second Smash play. We talked about Javonte Williams a little bit earlier. Apparently you're riding the wave at least for week 2, man. Tell us why you have him as a Smash play this week.
Yeah, I'm going to piss everybody off again with this Javonte Williams thing. Look, we saw Bill Krasky-Merritt average 8.2 yards per carry against the Giants last week. Austin Eckler on a smaller scale, 6 carries, averaged 4 yards per carry. To me, this is a get-right game for the Dallas Cowboys against the New York Giants. I do think the Cowboys win this game. It could be close. It could be a blowout. But I do think Dallas is going to be up for the majority of the day. Javonte Williams is the beneficiary of that by running out the clock, chipping in those extra garbage yards in the process. I do think we got another week of Javonte Williams, and then you sell high.
Yeah, I like that.
Short and sweet and to the point. I just want to ask you a quick question, though, Kyle, and we can kind of see where this goes because a lot of focus is on Javonte Williams and the 2 touchdowns last week and 56 yards. Had it not been for a Miles Sanders fumble, that was a classic Miles Sanders sort of move. In the limited time he was on the field, he actually looked pretty good and had a long run that he broke off as well. So I don't know. Just give me quickly. I know we're not talking about Miles Sanders as a long-term answer, but is there the outside possibility that Miles Sanders can contribute to a team and be a waiver wire guy at some point this year?
I mean, maybe at some point, yeah, but I mean, Jalen Carter was missing in that game, so any running back there would have gotten some yards, in my opinion. Jaden Blue was a healthy scratch, so I mean, it just tells me Javonte's the guy for now. And you know what? I'm going to pull a Rhett. At the end of the day, he fumbled the football, so Javonte's the guy right now.
Yeah, fair.
Fair?
Fair.
Gross.
Yeah.
Gross indeed.
But Drew, we're going to stay right here in Dallas right now. You mentioned it a while ago, and we're going to take it back to our boy M right now because, I mean, there was some George Pickens heat going on right here. Drew, you didn't do yourself any favors. You didn't piss the man off, and now you get to talk about George Pickens in depth. So you know what? Fire away, my friend.
This is the whole reason I starred M's question for later so that we could do this and then we could answer M's question. It was going to flow so nicely, but you had to be a prick and piss me off. Okay, so the box score for Pickens in week 1 didn't look great. Like there's no doubt about that. I couldn't understand why M is questioning if he should start him or sit him. There's nothing mind-blowing about 4 targets, 3 receptions, 30 yards. But there's this tweet that I saw from Jacob Gibbs at JA_Gibbs_23 with CBS Sports. He is a great follow. If you're not, like, aside from this tweet I'm going to mention, he is just a really great and informative follow. So if you're not following him, you absolutely should. Pickens was charted with a 53% horizontal breaking route rate, and he had a higher win rate on his horizontal breaking routes than even CeeDee Lamb did. It was only by a couple percentage points, but nonetheless. And for those that might not understand why that matters, horizontally breaking routes were 49% more likely to draw a target last year and worth 23% more fantasy points compared to vertically breaking routes, according to the Fantasy Points data suite. For those that remember, we spent the entire season last year complaining about the amount of vertical breaking routes that Marvin Harrison Jr. ran all year. They just kept sending him run straight all year long. That was not the case with George Pickens, even though that his skill set might lead you to believe that would be how he would use. Schottenheimer deployed him in a very positive way for his fantasy outlook. It did not produce the results that we wanted, but he's still a full-time player. He ran one more route than CD did last week. So he's out there on the field. He's getting favorable looks in an offense that threw the ball 34 times in week 1. Now, Dallas might not need to throw the ball 34 times against the Giants, but the matchup should be an easier one than what it was with the secondary against the Philadelphia Eagles. And so I think with the role that he has attached to this quarterback and the player that Pickens is, I think that he is one of those receivers that got off to a slow start and is due for a bounce back in week 2. So he's a smash play for me this week.
Gotta love when my guys are smash plays in week 2. That's always makes me feel good. Thanks, George.
And so Jorge, the boss man, says horizontal breaking route discussion. M should have waited, but Drew, I love deep dives like that, man. This is why you're one of the best in the business. You find these nuggets.
The one that
I know, but like we credit other people where it's due but like if we're being honest, like these are the types of things that even if other people mention them, not everybody's having access to this Twitter account. I mean, everybody can, but if they're with us tonight and they didn't see that tweet, you just gave somebody a potentially game-changing advantage. And that's kind of where we hope to kind of help our listeners out where we can. So big on the horizontal breaking routes. And if you look at a lot of teams in the league, I mean, that's where the offenses are these days. It's a lot of crossing routes. It's a lot of those things. So, I mean, yeah, perfect. So we are quickly going to go through a round of our smash plays and mention our second round of pass plays. But let's go ahead and let's start with you, Nate. A little bit surprising because your QB1 came out last week and looked like vintage Patrick Mahomes, for lack of a better word. But 1 week to the next, you got to play those defensive matchups. And I don't think the defensive matchup is doing him any favors this week. And I'm thinking that's kind of where you're going with Patrick Mahomes against Philadelphia as a pass.
Yeah, it was. We were talking before the show that if you look at the quarterbacks last week that had the lowest amount of pocket time, Patrick Mahomes was last week, and Spencer Rattler was second. Spencer Rattler with no time to pass is just in trouble. He threw the ball 46 times for 64 yards or whatever the number was. I'm sure it wasn't that low, but
4.7 yards per attempt. Let's go.
Pretty close. I think the mathematicians can say that's not good. Mahomes, on the other hand, can make, lemonade out of lemons or whatever, chicken salad out of chicken shit, something like that, whatever the phrasing is. Unfortunately, this week is a little different when the Philadelphia Eagles defense has me a little concerned. Actually, after the Jalen Carter incident, I think it's going to be even more pressure up the middle. I just think the ceiling is limited. I don't want to see Mahomes run nearly as much, which is what elevated his fantasy floor last week. He was running for his life a lot of the times. He may do the same thing, but at the end of the day, I think they're going to try to do more consolidated passes, short and intermediate like they've done, and it could get out of hand real quick. And as your QB9, I think that's just too high for me. If he was maybe I don't think he's even going to be a QB1 on the week. There's a few other options out there that I would replace him with.
So quickly, give me one of those options you might replace Mahomes with this week.
Well, I don't want to go as far as someone asked earlier about would you put Joe Flacco in that scenario? And the answer for me is no, not for this week. But
let me give you a rapid fire couple names.
Thank you. Good. Because I literally just X'd out of the page that had the quarterbacks in off the top of my head.
Let me give you a couple rapid fire names. Drake May against Miami.
Yes.
Dak Prescott against the Giants.
Yes.
Baker Mayfield at Houston.
That one's the trickiest one.
That's where it gets tough.
It does. Yeah. I think that's about the cutoff for me right there.
Well, that's three guys. And then Kyler Murray was also directly behind him at Carolina versus Carolina, which I figured would have been a yes as well. So, counting Kyler Murray, that's four names right there behind Mahomes in the ECR that you would have played over Mahomes. So there you go. That would put him outside your top 12.
There you go. Thank you for having that ready for me. That's teamwork right there.
Got you, man. Got you. Teamwork makes the dream work.
I got your back on that now.
Teamwork makes
so Kyle, let's keep it moving right now. Because if there's something you're apparently looking to do right now is Bossman's in the chat. He's in a good mood. He's having a blast. And here you are just trying to mess up the good vibes by sullying the good name of Terry McLaurin as the ECR wide receiver 23 this week.
Yeah, I think even Jorge is going to agree with me. It's a little bit high. Wide receiver 23, wide receiver 2 after what he did last week, 2 for 27 in the opener. We all knew that him holding out during the training camp, it was going to be a slow start. I expected a slow start of the season. I'm sure everyone else did. Now he's on a short week at Lambeau. This defense for the Packers is legit now, guys. Micah Parsons out on the edge, wrecking havoc. Dare I say, Super Bowl missing piece? Am I going too far? I really believe it. A lot of people also slept the entire offseason on Deebo Samuel, thinking that he was out of shape or whatever. I think he quieted those folks real quick. 7 catches, 77 yards against the Giants. He is a real weapon in this offense that can shoulder the load until McLaurin can get the sea legs underneath him from missing camp. Guys that I like more than Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, Devontae Smith. I even like, which could be a surprise because he was a bust for me in the offseason, was Travis Hunter. For this week, I think it's going to be a shootout in Cincinnati. I like him over Terry McLaurin this week. I don't want to get ahead of myself. For next week, though, it could be a different story with Scary Terry because he'll have a full 10 days against the Raiders. I kind of like that matchup. So maybe if he looks, say he goes 4 for 40, 4 for 50, then maybe it's time for Terry McLaurin. But right now, I think we gotta hold back. I think wide receiver 23 is ridiculously high after his 2 for 27 in the opener.
If you want a way to piss Jorge off, is not one slandering the Commanders, but calling him Scary Terry is kind of like leaving the I.
I usually actually don't do that too, Nate, because that's Terry Rozier's nickname, and I don't even think I think McLaurin actually came out and said he doesn't like it. Actually,
no, he likes F1.
Yeah. So I apologize.
Which is sweet. I don't blame him for liking it. It's a sweet ass
name,
but
so I apologize. I didn't mean to. It just kind of came out.
It is.
But Nate, the boss has a question. Do you think that the Packers losing Jair Alexander is going to help give McLaurin a little bit of a bump?
It's going to give him a little bit of a bump, but I don't think it gives him a bump enough to be pushed into that must-start range. I think Kyle did a great job of breaking down why. Getting the sea legs underneath, I think we expected it to be a week, and immediately he's getting jumped up probably 8-9 spots in ADP or ECR rankings. Kyle said exactly. Next week going forward, yeah, that connection can blossom even more so. But this is tough. That edge and the pressure that Green Bay can produce, and not having Jair is tough and all, but I think there's other options as you perfectly laid out with some of the other people. Do you have those on your team? People that have McLaurin? Probably not, but sorry.
You might have
yeah, exactly. We're not here to
But
down
if you don't have those players on your team, you can always head over to fantasyandframes.com, go to the rankings tab, and look at our rankings, and then you can see the players that we do prefer over Terry McLaurin, and then you can see if you have those guys on your roster. So
well done.
But just a little plug there. But I completely agree, though. We have enough statistical data points to show that guys that have holdouts or hold-ins or wherever the fuck they're holding at, wherever they're doing the holds at, they tend to start off slow. And McLaurin did just that in week 1. There's no reason to think that we don't get more of the same in week 2 against this good defense. So I completely agree.
I mean, fair enough. So Terry McLaurin digging himself a hole in week 2. And Drew, go ahead and tell us why DJ Moore, one spot under McLaurin at wide receiver 24. I mean, Chicago looked real good for the first 15 plays last week, but the one thing we kind of noticed with the Bears is that the pass distribution, target distribution, I mean, no one really stood out in that offense last week. Does this have something to do with that? Why you have DJ Moore as a pass this week?
Yeah, it's definitely a part of it. For me, it really just comes down to the fact that DJ Moore is being ranked as the Bears wide receiver 1 in ECR whenever he was the wide receiver 3 in terms of targets in week 1. Now, just because he was the wide receiver 3 in targets the first week of the season doesn't mean he's going to be the locked-in third option in this passing offense for the entire year. I'm not saying that. I just don't think he should be a wide receiver 2 in rankings after what we saw this past week. Now, this could very easily blow up in my face because the big play upside is obviously still there, considering that he averaged over 13 yards per target and over 22 yards per reception in week 1. So with those kind of numbers, which are pretty unsustainable, but with those kind of numbers, it's hard to have someone ranked as a wide receiver 2 after only having a 14% target share to open the season. And then whenever you consider the fact that Caleb Williams once again looked rough, like to your point, Rhett, at the start of the game, things were looking okay, things were looking up, but as the game went on, Caleb Williams, and I was a Caleb Williams believer coming out of school. I haven't completely given up yet, but I was really hoping to see a more improved version with the improvements in the offensive line, the Ben Johnson effect, things like that. I was really hoping to see a more improved version of Caleb Williams in week 1, and we did not get that. And so it's hard for me to have faith in DJ Moore as a wide receiver 2 whenever you combine Caleb Williams' play with his usage in the offense. And with how bad both the Bears and the Lions offenses looked in week 1, and the fact that this is one of those gritty divisional battles, it's not really going to shock me to see this turn into a low-scoring divisional game either. This isn't a pass pick to the point to where I think you have to bench DJ Moore. You would have to have a really solid roster, or just like your starting lineup might not be that deep for you to need to bench DJ Moore. This is just more of I think that he's more of a flex than a wide receiver 2, and that you should probably temper your expectations if you're expecting a lot out of him this week. So in that aspect, he's a pass for me.
I mean, it's a fair question. Let's get to our boy Galaxy Pickers, who has a question. Start, sit, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, 1 flex. Bill Krosky-Merritt, Jonathan Taylor. We got K9. We have CeeDee Lamb, Lamb McConkey, Roman Dutze, and Kayshon Boutte.
Jonathan Taylor's one. I think even despite the difficult matchup, I think we know the workload is him. In Seattle, we've seen the split there, probably pushing closer to 50-50. The goal line work for Charbonnet had me a little concerned with Kenneth Walker. Not that that's going to be the end-all be-all. And that's the question. Is it Kenneth Walker or Bill? And That's a tricky one. That's the hard one. I'll let you guys see what you get, and maybe you can persuade me. I'll take the easy Jonathan Taylor answer.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor is one of the clear running backs. CeeDee Lamb, Lad McConkey, those are the two clear wide receivers. So we need to find him one more running back to start between Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt and Kenneth Walker, and we need to find him a flex between whatever running back we don't pick, and then Odunze and Kayshawn. It ain't your booty, it's your beauty. Man, this is tough because I mean JCM, they play on Thursday Night Football against Green Bay. That defense looked really strong. I do think that he is going to continue to get more and more work as the year goes on. And Kenneth Walker, the whole thing was weird because at the start of the game it was more so Charbonnet, but then as the game went on and the game was close, Kenneth Walker was more so the guy in the fourth quarter. And so it's like, how do you even begin to try to project how those are going to break out? If it's me setting this lineup, I think I go Jonathan Taylor, Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt as my two running backs, CeeDee Lamb, Lad McConkey as my two receivers, and then I'm deciding between Odunze or JCM, or I'm sorry, Odunze or Kenneth Walker for the flex spot. So do you guys have any strong feelings between those two guys as far as the flex spot?
What was I going to say? Well, who do the Seattle Seahawks play? I can't. Who do they play?
Pittsburgh.
Seattle plays Pittsburgh.
Oh, yeah. Definitely Lad and CD for me. And I actually want to go Taylor, JCM, and K9.
Yeah, I think I'm right there too. Even though I will say I'm enamored a little bit with Kayshawn Boutte as far as his ability out on that X to make something of this situation against Miami.
He's had a nice string of really solid games dating back to last year. Like Boutte he's
top
had a string
20
of
receiver.
Like 5 games now. Like going back to last year and then week 1 of this year, he's had like 5 straight games where he has played really, really well.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's 3 or 4 or something like that straight week, top 20 wide receiver week. So, I mean, he's out there. He's guaranteed to be on the field and not taken out in any multiple formations because he's the guy, which is weird to say, that's going to be out there as the X. Crazy. Never would. He's definitely last on my list because I thought it was Pop, Diggs, and then, yeah. Oh. Hilarious.
The thing that sells me on starting the guys that I said was he drafted those guys much earlier than the other two, Odunze and Boutte. That's where I'm going with, and I'm not going to bench Kenneth Walker right now, even though Charbonnet took more of the load. I don't know. I don't want to give up on K9 just yet. I'll start those guys ahead of him.
Yeah, and here's just to make this a little bit more interesting. Odunze had 9 targets last week. He was the target leader for Chicago, but he only had 37 receiving yards, had a brutal 0.93 yards per route run, but he ended up saving his day with a touchdown. But he's got the target volume, though.
Yeah.
And so it's like you're deciding between a receiver that saw the volume versus a running back that we don't know where the volume is going to be at. And then you've got Kayshawn who, yeah, you didn't draft him to be anything, but he could very well outproduce both of these guys. And so it's like, I see why this is such a start-sit conundrum for sure.
Here's where I am on Kayshawn Boutte real quick. So someone who is much smarter than me and who is an expert on the wide receiver position, Matt Harmon, had a extensive conversation with Reggie where they talked Kayshawn Boutte this week. And actually, this was posted about 8 hours ago. The clip was on Harmon's Twitter. And something that is just worth noting is that his reception perception charting of Boutte last week perhaps says, number one, that we might have a little bit of fool's gold on our hand. I know the production has been there. And also, number two, the Raiders defense, the Raiders secondary, low-key was kind of buns last week. So, I mean, that's just 2 things to keep in mind as well going forward. So, let's just keep an eye on the Kayshon Boutte situation. I'm not saying don't roster him. I think he's absolutely rosterable. He needs to be rostered right now in most leagues. But if he's on my roster right now, I'm still waiting another week or two. I want to see that consistent production coming out of a game where he is not just playing a secondary where he can potentially feast.
I agree with that.
Well,
All right, so
I
real
do.
quick, answer this for me. Rome Odunze at Detroit or Kenneth Walker at Pittsburgh?
Odunze or K9?
If you had to flex one of them, K9 or Odunze.
I think
It seems like that's what this question really comes down to.
I think if you're coming off of a 9-target game like Odunze was, where he was the target leader, and I know they spread the ball around, but at the end of the day, he led that team in targets. And Zach Charbonnet is very, very close to what Kenneth Walker is and may take that job at some point this season. As much as that hurts me because I invested in a lot of Kenneth Walker this offseason. But I think this week, I think I'm going to take Odunze because I don't think if he has another 9-target game, we're going to see another 37-yard game.
Yeah, and now as far as the question goes, and the last little bit of on the Boutte thing, like Rhett, what you were saying as far as the matchup with the Raiders, the only thing I'll allude to is the Miami Dolphins, even in their best game, are still probably worse than what the Raiders played last week when in reality, as far as the secondary goes.
Yeah,
I'm not the biggest. Jack Jones doesn't do much for me. Storm Duck definitely doesn't. Jason Marshall at nickel, which he wouldn't have to worry about. But yeah, Mika Fitzpatrick's back there now. But nothing about that secondary says, okay, well, last week was great because the Raiders were so bad. That obviously propped him up. Well, I think he has the ability to be propped up even higher against this Dolphins where, let's be honest, wasn't it just last week that Daniel Jones did something that nobody else has done in the past century?
Yeah. 7 drives.
In the past century. That is a crazy stat. Now, I know it's a little fixed on that. He never had the ball at the end of the half of the game where it doesn't stop that. But still, just saying. I'm still not taking over the options there to go back to that initial question. But for anybody listening that may have him as another scenario, I will endorse it. You want to take this last question by Simon, guys, and then
all right. Rate my team. Any thoughts or advice? Thanks, guys. 10-team, 2 quarterback, Superflex, PPR, JJ McCarthy, Chase Brown, Chuba Hubbard, CeeDee Lamb, Malik Neighbors, Emeka Egbuka, Jake Ferguson, Drake May, 49ers bench of Booty Fannin, George Pickens, Dylan Sampson, Charbonnet, Purdy, and Rice. Woo! Okay, so Superflex League, and you've got Drake May, JJ McCarthy, and
Purdy.
Yep. So quarterback room is solid. In a Superflex League, I'm very happy with that quarterback room.
Where's his third? Because he has Purdy, who might be missing in this game.
He's got JJ McCarthy and Drake.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I didn't see May. Okay.
Yeah. So you're good at quarterback. Chase Brown, Chuba Hubbard, and Dylan Sampson and Zach Charbonnet at running back. So, I mean, between those 4 guys, you should be able to find 2 starters pretty easily there. I think you're good there. CeeDee Lamb, Malik Neighbors, Emeka Egbuka, George Pickens at receiver. Very, very, very solid receiver room. And then Jake Ferguson at tight end. So, I mean, Ferguson's obviously the weak point at this roster, but if you're going to be that stacked at quarterback, running back, receiver, you have to, you got to have a weak spot somewhere. So I don't mind if I'm going to have a weak spot in a super flex league somewhere. I want it to be the one position where I only have to start one guy. And so I have no problem with Ferguson as being a weak guy. He's still a borderline top 12 option in that Dallas offense every week. So I don't have much thoughts outside of I think this is a really solid team that should be competing for a championship this year.
Yeah. 100%. So, guys, I mean, we want to thank first off, before we talk about our friends at Fast Draft, to the people who tapped in with us tonight throughout the show, for all the questions, all the participation. from the bottom of our hearts, thank you. Like, you guys made this show not only a blast, but gave us a lot of places to look at to be super informative. Guys, we could talk at you all day. Like, we're good at talking. That's why we're on the show every Wednesday night. But when we can talk to you and participate with you and give you things that you want to hear, it makes all the difference for us. So we appreciate having you guys here with us, man.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yep.
And so before we get out of here, guys, let's talk about our friends at Fast Draft and make sure we can download and subscribe to Fast Draft today and use that promo code FRAMES, which will give you, our listeners, a first-time deposit of up to $50 in credits. You can play that Origins game where you draft only rookies, get you some Dylan Sampson, play that Flex Floor game where you pick your favorite players for the upcoming season, or their D-Up game, which is just like Flex Floor, but with IDP football players only. And if you want some advice for that, talk to our boy Nate or talk to the boss man with Jorge Edwards. But whoever you talk to, in whatever format you choose, just know you're going in there fast and furious. 20-second timer, PPR formats, 6 rounds, best ball draft games, perfect for those who are on the go, but itching to get that draft fix in and win themselves a little bit of money. So that promo code is FRAMES. Once again, that deposit match is up to $50 in credits. Our friends at Fast Draft, start drafting faster. So, fellas, what a show tonight. And so we talked about our smash and pass players. Just to recap, those smash players were Jordan Mason, Ted McMillan, Travis Etienne, Cedric Tillman, Javonte Williams, George Pickens. And those pass players, we talked about 3 of them, and Patrick Mahomes, Terry McLaurin, and DJ Moore. But Nate's second pass was David Montgomery, Kyle's was Jonathan Taylor, and Drew's was Mark Andrews. Guys, before we get into this fantasy football week, any final thoughts you guys want to get into?
I want to throw up one more question here. We had our Trudeau coming at the buzzer. Should I keep Jason or try to trade him for Nico Collins?
Ooh.
And look, this show is a very pro Nico Collins show. Like we know that. We love Nico here.
And I love JSN too. But
I love JSN.
We love JSN. And the usage was wild for JSN,
right.
and the target share that he saw in week 1 was insane. So I feel like this is almost like an even swap. And so if you have strong feelings about one guy versus the other, like if you just really like Nico and you want to try to go get him, I say go for it. But I
feel like you're buying low on that. You're buying low off of his performance, Nico. Yeah. I mean, Nico, because Nico had a rough week 1 for sure. And so I think it's a wash. So if there's a guy that you prefer, if maybe you're a Texans fan, fantasy football is more fun whenever you've got the guys that you want to root for on your team. So if you want to do that, by all means. But I think it's a pretty lateral move and don't think it's anything you have to do.
Yep.
Yeah, fair.
Yes, indeed. So, boys, first off, hour and a half tonight, tapping in on the marathon. Great job from all of you. And if you guys want more of that content, more of these takes, you can hit us at fantasyandframes.com. You can go to our previous show episodes, or you can follow us at Armanuel Sports, at Nate Markham, at KZ1180, or at Drew3 or more. But whatever you do, just tap back in with us next Wednesday when we talk about our Week 3 Smash or Pass plays. So for Nate, for Drew, for Kyle, for myself, for the Fantasy and Frames family, I'm Rhett Manuel. We are 4th and Frames. Toodles.